urged DOJ and FTC to investigate WNBA's misleading practices. Wow. So we are here now. And what's crazy about all of this is that, guys, this is I'm not going to come on here and say that they're going to lose, because if there was an investigation going into this team, they're not going to lose this investigation. Oh, they're going to win. Whoever is representing Kate.
What if I told you that something far more explosive than a twisted foot, a nasty foul, or even the end of a season was the cause of the largest controversy in women's basketball? Because what we're witnessing on the court isn't the only letdown. The uprising stems from it. Once bringing optimism to stadia, fans are now making demands on petitions. And an opposing team is not their aim. They used to support the same league. This is no longer conjecture. This goes beyond social media chatter. Fans are publicly demanding a federal probe of the WNBA for the first time in the league's existence. They feel as though they have been deceived, coerced, and exploited for financial gain. All the while, in front of the world, their brightest star shattered. Additionally, the commissioner's office is feeling the impact of the evidence they have obtained. Caitlin Clark, the teenage sensation who embodied the dreams of millions, is at the center of it all. She was envisioned as the athlete who might make the WNBA a must-watch television program and the face of a new era. However, rather than making history on the court, she is currently in the epicenter of a controversy that might destroy the league's standing. The unsettling part is here. Supporters don't think Caitlin Clark's injury was the end of her tale. They think it started with one. They claim that her circumstances weren't the result of pure poor luck. It was treachery. A well-planned lie that is more complex than anyone anticipated. One that affects referees, ticket sales, television agreements, and even Commissioner Cathy Engelbert's own office. Additionally, the supporters are no longer sitting silently. What began as irate internet comments has grown into a movement that is too significant to ignore. National headlines, petitions, and escalating rumors that this issue would make it to the highest echelons of government control are all present. Thus, we are left wondering about more than simply Caitlin Clark's fate. What more has the WNBA been concealing? Because if even half of the accusations prove to be accurate, this may be one of the most startling betrayals in professional sports, making it more than simply a sporting problem. The absurd thing is that we're only now starting to realize how profound it is. The news hit like a ton of bricks. Fans briefly clung to the notion that Caitlin Clark might make a comeback. The dream was dead after that. What no one wanted to hear was verified by the Fever's front office. Officially, her season was ended. It sounded easy on paper. A regrettable injury. The type of failure that all athletes fear. However, the emotional consequences were far from straightforward. The announcement was heartbreaking to fans who had devoted their time, money, and love to seeing her battle night in and night out. The supposedly historic sophomore season was cut short before it had a chance to develop. And the effect was immediately apparent. Not only did Indiana Fever game ticket prices decline, they fell. Prices for certain contests decreased by over 70% in the hours following the news. On one occasion, seats that typically cost more than $130 were suddenly only worth $80. In another instance, a ticket that had previously cost $86 was reduced to just $25. It's more than just a decline in demand. The bottom is dropping out there. Fans weren't really impressed with the economics, though. They felt as though they had been strung along. The teams and the league's messaging have been cautiously positive for weeks. The terms daily and questionable became commonplace. Every update offered fans who only want to believe hope. With the hope that Clark could be present, fans continued to purchase tickets, travel across the nation, and pack venues. All of that hope abruptly appeared to be a part of a cruel show as the curtain came down. According to the official narrative, time had simply run out and her body had failed. However, it didn't seem like an accident to those who had been paying careful attention. It was like being betrayed. For what reason would Caitlin Clark continue to claim she was day-to-day if she was never really close to returning? Why do you keep using the same ambiguous sentences that captivated followers right up until the very end? To everyone who had contributed financially and emotionally to help her along the way. The season didn't seem to be coming to an end when the injury was announced. It seemed like a controversy was about to break out. And it gets clearer the more you examine it. This was more than a simple misunderstanding. This was a very other matter. The ticket numbers eliminated any uncertainty regarding the true nature of this. The market collapsed as Caitlin Clark was declared officially ruled out. And it took place right away. Suddenly, fans who had been paying top dollar to see her perform discovered that their tickets were almost worthless. Overnight, we're talking about a 71% drop. Games that used to cost more than $130 a seat now only cost about $80. Prices fell during another encounter, going from $86 to $25. $25 for the identical seat that, only a few days prior, individuals had been paying 4 times as much for. At that point, it was hard to deny the unpleasant reality. This has nothing to do with optimistic updates. This has nothing to do with privacy protection. Money was at issue here. The WNBA and the Fever were aware that Clark's name on the marquee was their path to success. She wasn't just there to fill venues. It was boosting national prominence, retail sales, and TV ratings that the league hadn't experienced in decades. Rather of being direct, they continued to mention her name at every game, giving supporters the impression that she may play while earning as much money as they could. Consider the impact that incident had on the spectators. To surprise their children, parents purchased tickets months in advance. To visit their idol, college students must scrounge together money. Families made reservations for hotels and flights throughout the nation on the basis of the assurance that Caitlin Clark was regular, only to discover they had been duped when they got to the stadium. More deeply than any monetary loss, there was a sense of betrayal. Fans felt taken advantage of, not simply let down. They were no longer supporters. They were consumers who had been duped and treated like worthless objects. The worst part is that this lie wasn't an isolated incident. It was methodical. Every dubious categorization, hazy injury report, and repeated phrase combined to create a pattern that appeared less hopeful and more like a premeditated plan to extract every last penny from supporters before acknowledging what the league already knew. The consequences were instantaneous. Social internet was ablaze with indignation. It was referred to as a fraud by ticket holders. Comment sections rife with fraud allegations. What ought to have been a season characterized by Clark's skill was now characterized by distrust. Here's the scary bit though. According to insiders, the Fever wasn't the only cause of this. According to the murmurs, the league administration itself benefited from this lie. That those who ought to have been defending openness were instead endorsing a cover-up in order to boost their profits. And once you realize that, the narrative changes because this is more than simply a franchise problem if the falsehoods regarding her injury and ticket sales were orchestrated at the highest levels. This conspiracy is league-wide. Much if that sounds awful, what transpired on the court made it appear much worse. Fans were angry by now. However, one thing seemed more and more obvious the more they examined the timeframe. This went beyond careless communication. It appeared to be a cover-up. The same rehashed sentences continued to show up in official updates for over 2 months. Daily, debatable, and hopeful. Those were hardly innocuous words. They served as bait. Lines that are carefully picked to keep spectators interested week after week, game after game. The worst part is still to come. According to several reports, the league was previously aware. Insiders claim that the front office of the Fever had known for weeks that Clark had little to no chance of coming back. However, they engaged in a game of smoke and mirrors rather than being truthful. They repeated the same nebulous optimism they knew was never true while allowing supporters to purchase tickets, hotel rooms, and non-refundable flights. Take a time to consider that. It wasn't only a chance. Since the truth was uncomfortable for business, there was a plan in place to delay it as long as possible through concerted deceit. Furthermore, some with knowledge of the incident say that this was more than simply a Fever issue, which makes the rumors even more sinister. The league office itself reportedly approved of the plan. Clark's impact on viewership and ticket sales was recognized by Commissioner Engelbert and her administration. She was more than simply a talented athlete. The WNBA had been waiting for this cash cow, and she was it. She was the focus of whole broadcasts. Because of her, merchandising took off. When she was in town, even the opposition arena saw sellouts. The league was therefore on the verge of financial ruin when the injury occurred. And they intensified their deceit rather than confronting it directly. Keep her daily. Continue to sell to your fans. Maintain the Clark effect for as long as you can. If accurate, this is more serious than a PR error. It's the type of persistent lying that crosses a line into danger. Deceitful tactics, misleading advertising, and maybe even fraud. Fans are no longer only venting online because of this. They are requesting that the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice conduct investigations. Because it is not just frustrating but also against the law for a sports league to intentionally deceive its paying patrons in order to make money. The truth is, though, that the betrayal included more than just the falsehoods about her injuries. Because something far darker was taking place on the court as fans were being harassed off it, endangering not just Caitlin Clark's season but also her safety, health, and possibly even her career. Caitlin Clark wasn't only enduring the rigors of a rookie season, so if the lie about her condition alarmed supporters, what transpired on the court left them furious. She was up against something far more formidable. The league let a wave of targeted physical punishment to occur in public view. The statistics alone paint a terrifying picture. Clark, a single player, received an astounding 17% of all WNBA egregious fouls during her debut season. Take a moment to process that. Almost a fifth of the most harmful fouls in the league are committed by a single young rookie. That's hardly a coincidence, statistically speaking. There is a pattern there. Additionally, the design only becomes darker with closer inspection. Clark endured blows that went beyond good defense in game after game. Body checks, hard elbows, and shvees that are considerably beyond the play's natural flow. The type of risky interaction that makes supporters question whether the intention was to kill her season or to stop her game. The opposition appeared more confident. Furthermore, why wouldn't they be? The message got louder with each risky play that went unpunished. The referees won't save her if you rough her up. Players like Angel Reese frequently found themselves at the center of brutal non-basket collisions, making the Chicago Sky stand out in particular. Many supporters started to think that this went beyond just physical protection.